spot, we're going to be having a look at Mezco Series 4 Cinema of Fear, Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. As commented many times before, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master is by far my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Many will say that Part 3, actually I think the general consensus is that Part 3 is the best of the series. I will argue the point though that even as good as Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 was, I think Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 probably had one of the better stories. I really did like the fact that as the girl lost her friends, she was gaining their abilities enough that she could be strong enough to take on Freddy at the end. I really like that idea. Also, Part 4 was really when we started to establish the Freddy Krueger background mythos, which played, I think, a more predominant role in Part 5. But I think up to Part 4, we really didn't know too much of Freddy Krueger, and I think Part 4 really started kind of laying the bridge work for what we now know as the background story. Needless to say, let's have a look at the packaging. As mentioned with the Jason as well as the Debbie Stevens, the packaging is no longer the clear clamshell casing, which was always a pain to open, and no matter if you collected horror movies, video game characters, anything, I mean, everybody has opened a clamshell case at one point, and the hassles and the BS that you have to go through to open these guys sometimes is a pain. It is nice now to see them in a much smaller, much more compact packaging. I mean, really, you get as much effect, I think, having it on a small card like this as what you would have in the larger clamshell. I don't really think you're losing anything by having it in the smaller card such as that. And down below we have Freddy Krueger. Includes bone saw, pizza with faces, and alternate head. And then along the top, running up the side here, we have the posters from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 and Friday the 13th Part 3. As I mentioned with the other two figures, there's only 2 posters featured because the 3 characters are only featured in 2 of the movies. So there you go. On the back, the other figures in the wave, aside from Surgeon Freddy, would be the Debbie Stevens, the poor Debbie Stevens that really ran through the gauntlet, I think, of all the victims in the Nightmare movies. And then there's the very impressive Jason Voorhees from Part 3. I haven't opened up the Freddy yet, obviously, because I haven't reviewed the figure. But I would say still my favorite of the 3 is the Jason Voorhees. As I mentioned with Debbie Stevens, I would say if anybody hasn't picked this up yet, definitely pick this up while it's still in stores and it's at the $14 to $15 price point. As soon as these guys fly off the shelves, to find them on eBay, you're going to start finding them skyrocket in prices. So I would definitely say pick it up now if you get the opportunity to. But there we have the packaging on Freddy Krueger. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this figure and we will get a closer look at the details on Freddy Krueger. So stay tuned. And here we have Surgeon Freddy out of his package. A really nice sculpted figure. I mean, there's really not a lot to it when you think about it because he's got surgical attire on. And then, of course, you can see his face there. I would say, though, probably one of the nicest faces of all the Freddy figures. I mean, between the sculpt and the paint scheme, it's incredibly detailed. I mean, like a really detailed figure. And just to kind of give you guys an idea here, if I move him over, and if you guys can kind of see the evolution of the toys here, here we have the current Freddy, the surgical Freddy from Series 3. I'll bring in one of the earlier Freddys. As you can see, he's come a long way. This one is much more stylized, very cartoony, I think, in some way. And I think this Freddy really, I mean, considerable leaps and bounds, I think, for the sculpting on it. I do have to commend Mezco for the incredible job they've done. It seemed every wave that they've released, these figures have gotten better and better. In the way of articulation, the figure has movement in his head, pretty much a free range movement. He has a ball joint in his arm. He has a, what I love is the hinge joint in his elbow. I wish they really get away from that swivel kind of gimp arm joint. He has rotation in his arm, in his hand, and a really nice extension of his claws. They're really, you know, spread out there, which I really like. And articulation in the waist, and that's pretty much it. I mean, from the waist down, you're not going to get anything else but a statue. Not necessarily a big deal, because, I mean, we don't really play with these, at least most of us don't. And just to have them on display as is, I think is fine. Now, in the way of his accessories, he does come with a surgical tool, which you can put in his hand, like that. And he also comes with the pizza, the delicious meatball pizza with all the little faces, brains, with all the little faces here. I think pretty nicely detailed, considering, you know, it's just a pizza. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of craving a pizza right now. Maybe not with little heads on it, but really, really nicely detailed. Probably the nicest feature of all is the alternate head, which, as you can see, includes the surgical mask. Now, I'm probably from the type, from the other reviews I've seen of this guy, a lot of people, especially, I'm trying to remember his name, CG, I'm really sorry if I get your name wrong, man. I think CG 1197. If it's wrong, I'll post it down below. But he did an excellent review on this guy, and he commented that he probably will have it with the face showing. I'm almost from the opposite school, that I probably will put the head on with the surgical mask, and just because I think that's one of the. When we saw Freddy first in this getup, he was wearing that, I think. So it's nice. I think I would have it just on as that. I mean, I have enough Freddys with the face that, you know, we've seen enough of this. But to each his own. I mean, you know, it's just a matter of opinion. But I think I'm going to have him on display like that. Very, very nice figure, though. Between the Freddy and then the Jason as well from the wave, I think definitely a strong wave. Really, sadly, it's only 3 figures. I wish they would have been more, but of the 3, I think these 2 are the strongest characters. The Debbie isn't bad, but if you ask me, if I would only get the Debbie if you're either into the victims side of the movies, or if you buy the 3-pack all at once, which I did. But definitely like the figures. I definitely like the Freddy. It's a nice strong addition to the other Freddys in the other waves. And let's hope Mezco keeps releasing these babies. I definitely will keep picking them up, especially if they go through all the Freddys. And I don't know, maybe we'll get a nicer sculpt on the first Freddy. But there you have. There's a toy spot on Mezco Cinema of Fear, Series 4, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, Freddy Krueger. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.